Hey everyone, this is Ryan with Stock Investing and Trading 101. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd. We're in the midst of earnings season. A lot of good companies came out with their earnings today, and we're going to break down all the earnings that took place today, or at least a lot of the biggest companies that had earnings today. I was going to make a video at the end of the week about all the earnings, but there's just so many earnings that are happening this week that it's going to be tough to make it in one video. So today we're just going to go over the earnings that happened today. First, we're going to start off with Tesla. This is a chart of Tesla. As you can see, after hours, we have rallied over $50 from around 254 to about 304, so pretty much exactly $50. The reason this stock rallied so hard is because they ended up making a profit instead of an expected loss. Wall Street was expecting a minus 24 cent per share, and instead they made $1.91 per share. This is a huge blowout for them. They really did blow it out. They also mentioned in their earnings call that they expect positive quarterly cash flow, higher margins. So overall, a really good earnings report for Tesla. I think the fact that they are making money now instead of losing money is huge for this company. I wasn't a fan of Tesla before. I only have a real little bit of money invested into Tesla. Now that it's a profitable company, I think things may change. This stock could rally as it is right now pretty hard, and we'll see where it goes. Next, we're going to talk about Microsoft. This was one of the biggest stocks that had earnings today. Microsoft ended up beating Wall Street expectations. They had an expected earnings per share of $1.25, and their actual earnings per share was $1.38, beating estimates by over 10%. This caused the stock to remain relatively flat. We made a big move down, and then we made a big move up, and we kind of ended up in the middle. And it's going to be interesting to see how the earnings call with this goes and how this stock moves tomorrow, because as I'm making this video, a lot of these companies are actually having their earnings calls, which can affect the stock price. Just because it has a good earnings per share doesn't necessarily mean that it was a great quarter or that it's having great future growth potential. So it's going to be interesting to see how some of these earnings calls affect these stocks. Next, we're going to talk about Boeing. Boeing is at a really tough time for the past about year. Their 737 MAX plane was grounded, and it's been grounded now for I don't know how long, probably 9 months or so. They ended up missing earnings per share with an expected earnings per share of $2.04, an actual earnings per share of $1.35, and that ended up being a 29% miss on Boeing, causing the stock to, it really didn't make too much of a move. Boeing is kind of already pretty beaten down, and I think a lot of this was kind of priced into Boeing because look where it is. I mean, we're down over $100 and some from its highs over here, and I think that's the reason that the stock isn't really falling too hard, because it's kind of already expected that they weren't going to be doing well. But we'll see what they have to say on their earnings call, and that could affect the way this moves. Next, we're going to talk about Ford. I was actually just listening to the Ford conference call a little bit, and Ford ended up beating their earnings per share slightly with an expected estimate of 26 cents per share, and instead they beat the estimates with a 35-cent per share revenue. So that is a 30% increase over the expected EPS, and really the stock price hasn't performed that well because of this. It has been somewhat in a rally now. I guess this big candle here, kind of the stock moving up, but I believe that it's relatively flat and slightly down because of the earnings call and what they have to say moving forward. But I'll be recapping that in a different video. But just sticking to the earnings per share, they did beat earnings per share. And I also heard something about them releasing some type of electric vehicle pretty soon here. I think they said something like 3 weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see how that might affect the stock. Next, we have PayPal, who beat EPS by just 1 cent. So expected EPS 60 cents, actual EPS 61 cents, for a 2% beat of Wall Street expectations. Still, the stock has rallied quite hard, about a $10 rally, which is like 10%. And yeah, this must have something to do with either their earnings call or something they said, because the earnings per share, it was a beat, but very slightly. It's probably rallying due to how far it's been beaten down, and then for them to have a pretty good quarter beating expectations, I can see why it would rally off of this, and that's where we are. So next we're going to talk about Caterpillar. So Caterpillar has had up and down. As you see, this is the 1-year chart. The Chinese tariffs have really taken a hurt to Caterpillar. It really affects them a lot, and that's part of the reason that the stock is kind of making lows and was downtrending for quite a while. Looking at their price action today, we have a slight rally, and after hours remaining somewhat flat. Caterpillar's expected earnings per share was 282, and they actually missed, only getting a $2.66 earning per share for a 6% miss. And it's going to be interesting to see a lot of these conference calls. As I mentioned before, the conference calls are just as important, if not more important, than the actual earnings per share numbers, because it's going to tell you how they're going to, how much money they're going to make moving forward, and what they plan on doing with their company. So overall, pretty good price action, at least for PayPal. Not necessarily, or for Caterpillar, not necessarily the best, but I guess the market is reacting well to it. Next, we have two more stocks. So we have eBay, which is also, I believe, owned. They own PayPal, or it might be vice versa. But so PayPal or eBay had an expected EPS of 65 cents per share. They ended up with an actual EPS of 67 cents per share. The stock has tumbled a little bit down because of this. Looking at their 1-year chart, pretty much near all-time highs, and they're coming down a little bit. Might have something to do with their conference call, but that's the price action, and that's where we're at. Last, we're going to talk about Waste Management. So they had earnings today, expected EPS of $1.16 per share, actual EPS $1.19 per share, and really the stock has kind of remained flat. Actually, we did make a nice rally, so this Waste Management isn't very active, it looks like. When it makes a slash, that means there's not a lot of volume. It's under a certain amount of volume. So we did make a nice rally up here, and it looks like we came back down to about the 114.50 level. But there's not a lot of volume on this right now, so it might have a bigger move tomorrow during actual market hours. This isn't really a stock that trades that well. This is more a company that you would invest in for the long term and that you would hold on to. Not necessarily the best stock for trading. So that's the video, guys. Those are some of the biggest earnings that came out today. I think the Tesla earnings was a really big shocker. It definitely was to me, for them to be a company not making money, and now they have a positive EPS of over $1.90. That's a pretty good, significant jump. So it's going to be interesting to see how these companies perform in the future. That's all I got today for you guys. As always, thanks for watching my video. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, and we'll see you guys soon.